Hello and welcome to the Happy Little Futures podcast. To begin with, we're going to take a nice deep breath into our stomachs and out through your mouth. Fantastic. So this week, I have had a fantastic week actually. It's been, we had voting day yesterday and it was lovely because I had the kids at home, or at least the older two, and so we went to Stratford, saw a friend, which was wonderful, and that was like a real highlight in the week to be able to do that. I had a good few days at the start of the week with our youngest, which was quite nice. And I also did some staff training for a nursery on Wednesday morning, and then I've had a meeting this morning. And so it's a standard week. However, I am currently just sort of like feeling so positive, and I just wanted to celebrate that for a second. not not in a self-centered way, but in just the way in which quite often we can get so caught up in what we're doing in the everyday that we lose sight of those positives, those little things that are there to be celebrated. And I think it's just such an important thing every so often for all of us to do, where we just stop and just have a moment of appreciating ourselves, appreciating what we do for ourselves, what we do for others, appreciating how far we've come from wherever we've been and where our journey's taken us, really. Um, so for me, I started off Wednesday morning in a good place. Gonna go do some teacher training today. Yep, it's fine. I'll take the kids and take the kids to school, come back and head off, and everything will be fine. In actual fact, I took the kids to school. It was all a bit rushed because morning routine. It just is rushed at the moment. The kids, bless them, they're exhausted. They've got a lot going on with new teachers changing and sort of changing year groups, teachers leaving. They're in a place where I think they're sort of trying to just survive through till the end of term like the rest of us. And so they just weren't quite there for getting out of the house in the morning. They just wanted to do crafts, do their normal playing with Magnetiles, which are like our toy of the century here in this house. I don't know about anyone else, but honestly, the Magnetile castles and stuff that we have up all the time are just incredible. And really, I think we could get rid of every other toy in our house and only have Magnetiles. If you've not seen a Magnetile, it's basically like a shaped piece of plastic with a magnet on each side. So then you can like click them together. So you have to be kind of careful depending on the type of Magnetile that you've got. We've got a cheaper set and then we've got a slightly more expensive set. The cheaper set you do have to balance quite well. They don't fit together in the same way as the slightly more expensive set. But they're just fantastic. The things that the kids construct and everything, they're just incredible. And our son especially, he's just like an absolute whiz with them. I keep glancing over at a castle that he's got in the middle of the floor that he's made, and his brain just works in such a fantastic way to execute it. Like, I definitely don't think I could have been able to do what he does with them at that age. It's just fantastic. I might put a picture up at some point just to show you. So where was I? I was talking about my morning. So it was a bit more hectic than I'd hoped. I had a chance to have my cacao like I'd wanted. The kids were quite fraught. We got to school. I had dropped them off. I literally turned to leave, and suddenly my stomach just went, and I got nerves. I got the nerves creeping in. I was worried. I was anxious. My breath was shallow. I was just like, okay, it's gonna be fine. And started sort of do my breathing exercises that I work on when I'm feeling nervous, prepping myself. And I got back in, made my cacao, had that, and then went out and did this training. And just as I was closing the door, I found myself saying aloud to myself, "You've got this. This is what we've been working for." And you can do this. Excuse the dog snoring in the background. And you can do this, and this is a positive thing. It's okay to be nervous. Let's take a deep breath and move through, go and do our training. And it was great. And the training went well. It was really well received. The people at the nursery were absolutely lovely, and they feel that fitting in the mindfulness in the way that I've delivered it in the Happy Little Futures way is going to work quite well for them, which is everything that I could have hoped for them, and everything that I could have hoped for me. So that was fantastic. And I got home and I was just like, you know what? Yeah, I do deserve to celebrate that. I deserve to celebrate the fact that I got nervous and managed to get myself into a better place. I deserve to celebrate the fact that I recognised what I needed in that moment, in the way in which breath work was involved and stuff like that. I prepped myself. I gave myself a good pep talk, without really even thinking about it. I spoke to myself as if I was speaking to my daughter. I did that thing that I know I've mentioned in the past. People go, oh, talk to yourself like you talk to a friend. And it drives me nuts, that, because it's like, I get it. I do get it. But it's not something easy to do in the slightest. But actually I did it, and I did it without thinking as well, and it did help me. And then, yeah, went out and had a great morning, and all was good. And I got home and I was just like, this is what I've been working towards all this time. Like, the nursery was great. It was received well. I've got home and I feel like I've achieved, and it's all good. And it deserves celebrating. And then yesterday we went out and had a lovely day. Again, I mean, I'd only got the older two, but I didn't really get as anxious as I used to get going out with them, and knowing that we were going away. When we got to leave, we went to Stratford, so then when we had to leave and get back, I was like, normally I would have been, oh, come on, we've got to go, like, we're going to be late to pick up the little one. And actually I didn't do that. I just sort of was like, no, it'll be fine. Like, the traffic looks okay, and I've allowed time, and actually it's going to make things worse if I start fretting in their faces. And so that went really well as well. Just the whole day was lovely. And then today I've been to this meeting, and it was someone new that I haven't spoken to before. And she was like, oh, so what do you do? And I was telling her about what I do with Happy Little Futures, and how it's all about bringing mindfulness, integrating mindfulness into people's days, making it simple, making it achievable, and making it so that it really becomes a tool that kids can use throughout their day. I explained about the fact that so much of it is about educating the parents and teachers and helping them access that support that they can provide for themselves as well, but making it achievable, so that it's not something that if they've not managed to get, like, if you sit there and go, oh, I should be meditating, I should have meditated, instead of sitting there and going, oh, I should do this, I should do that, just stop and take a breath and congratulate yourself for remembering. And take a breath, be present with that breath, and move forwards. And I sort of said, it's just so much about that, about learning to model to your child, learning sort of to be present in that moment, and helping your child to see how to do that too, and really maintaining that mindful ability that children have. Because once you start getting into secondary school in particular, you get wrapped up in the work, the homework. It's probably sooner nowadays, but for me it was definitely like secondary school and year 6 that it started to get worse. So it's like, really you want to be helping them to harness that, so that when they do get to that stage of going into more exam based and studious learning styles, they can still access those skills. It's foundational. So I was telling her all about this, and like sort of plans I've got for the future, and all of that sort of stuff. And she just looked at me and she was like, oh, she said, you're just so enthusiastic. She was like, it sounds fantastic and it's so needed. And it was just wonderful to sit down and just hear someone appreciating the work that I've been putting in. It's been a really rough year for us as a family, and it's been hard at times to keep going and keep pushing, and I've known that I've had to, and I've kept going and I've kept pushing. And yes, the podcast took a bit of a hit without having me coming in and doing it for a few months and all of that, but it was just lovely to hear this person going, no, you've got, like, you're doing a good job. So before I carry on, speaking of the podcast taking a hit, I don't want my wonderful sponsor to take a hit because I got caught up in my chatting. So our fantastic sponsor is Pamela at Rowan Fox, and she creates a sustainable clothing brand called Rowan Fox, like I've just said, for kids who love animals and adults who care about the planet. And her clothes are just fantastic, and you can explore the whole collection of wildlife inspired organic t-shirts and hoodies at rowanfox.com. Head over to her Instagram and Facebook pages as well, because her artwork that she's done and created for these t-shirts they're just absolutely fantastic. It's such a unique and colourful, bright style, and yeah, it's just wonderful. So definitely take a look at Rowan Fox. So it was wonderful hearing this person recognise, this complete stranger recognise the hard work that I've put in, the effort that I've put in, recognise how important building mindfulness into kids' days is, and meditation into kids' days is, and helping parents and teachers to find their place of calm. And it was just a really wonderful thing to just finish the week off with, having had it be a good week, finish it off with that sort of feedback from a complete stranger, essentially. So yes, so I'm celebrating myself for a little bit. I'm reconnecting with the why am I doing it? Why is it so important that people have access to mindfulness skills and tools? Why is it so important that children in particular have access to mindfulness and meditation? And how can you implement it into the day to make it so that it is accessible? I've said in the past how my daughter sort of struggles to engage with meditation in certain ways, and so we tailor it to her, and she is a prime example of how working it in little tidbits into the day really helps. She was in quite a heightened state of emotion last night. Like I said, the sort of end of term wind down is really taking hold, and obviously we'd had a busy day as well, and it was all a lot of fun. And sort of going to bed in the evening, she wasn't in the best of places, and I jumped into bed, and I just lay next to her, and I just said, you're safe, you're loved, you're wonderful, you're a superstar, you're safe, you're loved, you're wonderful, you're a superstar. And she kicked and she sort of screamed and did what she had to do. But as soon as I started saying that, she slowly came down. I could see that even though she wasn't fully there, she wasn't fully ready, having those affirmations said to her, having that contact, that connection, however far apart we were, even though I wasn't cuddling her or anything, just knowing that I was there and that she was safe, she managed to come back down from that. And we had a cuddle, and we listened to a bit of Harry Potter, and she settled down. And I think it's just important to recognise that it's the little changes that we make. It's the little things that we do as an adult that make a difference. And however little those things we do are, it could be as simple as just one day your kid's kicking off, you've shouted at them, and a bit later you go, look, I'm really sorry I shouted, that possibly wasn't the best way to handle it, let's have a hug. Like, just that in itself deserves to be celebrated, and you deserve to be celebrated for the hard work that you're doing on yourself, on your children, helping other people. I'm pretty sure if you're listening to this podcast at the moment, you're on some sort of journey yourself. You're on some sort of, it might not be transformational, it might just be a normal, in inverted commas, journey of helping to raise children and moving through life and trying to be a bit more mindful. And you deserve to be celebrated. You deserve to celebrate your little wins throughout the day, your little things that you do that you go, yeah, I actually did that. That was good. I did that presentation and I didn't throw up beforehand because I was so nervous. Or I went in and I sort of did speak to the teacher when I wanted to speak to the teacher. I didn't let myself feel like I couldn't make that comment or sort of stand up for my child. Or no, I did take a deep breath and managed to stop myself from shouting and snapping back and help them in a bit of a more mindful way. You do that and you celebrate yourself for that, because there are so many things out there at the moment that are making life difficult. Money, like politics, heck, it's the day after the election, like just general, should I do this, should I do that, sort of, for me, like the constant to homeschool or not to homeschool argument and stuff like that. All those little things, it can be really hard traipsing through the non-stopness of life. I find myself some days craving the days of dial-up and landlines, where I didn't have a phone on all the time, where I wasn't constantly connected to the internet, where it had to be a really mindful thing to go onto the internet. There had to be a sort of proper decision of, is this the right time to be going onto the internet, or is it the evening? Is it likely that someone's going to call up right now and have that conversation? I really miss that time sometimes, and increasingly at the moment, and find myself craving it. And I think when we've gone through so much change over the past few decades, 2 decades or something, from a slow life where there's a little bit of technology and you might have a computer at home, to suddenly people are walking around with computers in their pockets. Some people multiple computers in their pockets. It's just such a fast-paced world, one that we weren't raised to live in, one that we weren't necessarily prepared to have those changes and have to keep up constantly with those changes and what they mean socially, what they mean on a work level, what they mean on an academic level. I mean, heck, when I was at university, some of our lecturers still just used the projectors and the slides. I don't think we had any interactive whiteboards when I was at school or anything like that. Maybe in year 11, an interactive whiteboard might have come up, but like at A levels and all of that, there was nothing like that. And now it's everywhere. The kids have interactive whiteboards in their classrooms. Things that they can touch, and they can sort of move the letter to the right sound or something like that. And it's just such a different world nowadays. And I think we deserve to celebrate, if nothing else, that we've made it this far. We've kept up with everything going on in the world and kept our heads down and kept on going. But actually, you deserve to be celebrated in all of that. What your body and your mind has been through over the past few decades deserves to be celebrated. Where you've got yourself today deserves to be celebrated. And And I'm celebrating you, and I'm celebrating myself, and giving myself a bit of grace that I can do it. It might feel hard, but sometimes just taking a moment to self-reflect and appreciate where I've come from and where I've got to is possibly the most important thing that I can do for myself. So have a go this week at just that bit of self-reflection, just a bit of self-congratulations, and just coming back to you and where you've gone and come from and what you've done, and giving yourself a bit of self-love. So with that, we're going to take one final deep breath in and release, and drop me a line if you've got anything in particular that you've celebrated or anything you want to share. Join the Happy Little Futures Hub to let me know, and I will speak to you very soon.